Why are we using your weird Bluetooth speaker? Why don't we have our normal speaker in here?
Guys, listen, you didn't pay your bills. They repossessed all your things. Now you're going to complain when I use my equipment.
Oh.
Guys, I told you that one guy was a druggie.
And the story gets
0 to
deeper.
100.
Welcome back to TrendingSA on SABC3 and online at TrendingSA.tv. That's exactly what happened. All right, let's see some of your posts on Facebook right now. This is from Pumelele saying, I've been waiting for you guys since Friday. I think it's time for you to work Monday to Friday at least.
Okay, fine.
Show us the money. Show us the money. It's on 3. I agree, Pumelele. Mshini.
I agree.
Mshini betuna. I like that.
That's
you
good.
guys look amazing today. Dr. Mtombeni with his Madiba shirt. Kill him, Bafo.
Hey.
Do them like... A blind man. Look at a blind man.
What are you shaking off, Momo?
Look at him because he can't look at you.
He has no hair, but he's shaking his scalp. Woo, what
You
a
know
nice scalp.
when you think that he's looking at you all sexy, he's actually just squinting because he can't see it.
No, I really am.
So listen, thank you so much for all of your posts, all of your comments. We do absolutely love hearing from you. Now, let's move on to some of the trends that happened this weekend. We'll start with you, Nina.
The weekend started off with Lunar Eclipse trending on my timeline. It was a blood moon.
Listen, this was this century's longest lunar eclipse. So the light of the moon was completely covered as Earth passed between the sun and the moon. And then later we'll have El's son, and I'll ask him if that's
It's a joke.
Talent,
It's a joke. No,
Not even let them breathe. All right, and then then it cast a shadow on the moon for about an hour and 43 minutes.
Ooh.
Then the bright yellow light seen next to the moon was the planet Mars. Actually, if you download Google, here's Mars, here's the moon. My face is the moon. And if you download Google Sky, you can actually see where the constellation was. It's actually pretty cool. And now the reason we could all see it was because Mars had moved the closest to Earth that it's been in 15 years. It was here. It was just here in Sandton. And then there's very interesting superstitions linked to the lunar eclipse all over the world. For example, some people believe that the lunar eclipse is a sign of the apocalypse. Revelations, my friends.
That's true.
Yeah. In some Australian Aboriginal cultures, it's believed that the eclipse is a sign that the sun and the moon were having children.
That's true.
Another
Believe it
baby
or
shower.
not. Yeah, another baby shower. It was a baby shower for an hour and 43 minutes. The moon is back to its regular shade now of white, so all you conspiracy theorists and stargazers will have to wait until the year 2025 for the next lunar eclipse.
It's around the corner, though.
But you know what's so great? That 2025 is just around the corner,
Yeah.
7 years' time. Okay, so another major trend from the weekend was the very, very heartbreaking news. I don't know if you guys saw this on your timelines. All right, so Professor Bongani Mayosi, he suddenly passed away. He was one of the leading cardiologists in South Africa, the Dean of Health Sciences at the University of Cape Town as well. There you can see an incredible talent of a cardiologist. Now, his family released a statement saying that the 51-year-old academic ended his own life.
Shame.
And this came after struggling with chronic depression for the past 2 years. Professor Mayosi followed in his own father's footsteps, becoming a doctor. His childhood was spent driving around in his father's car, delivering medication to patients in rural and remote areas in the Eastern Cape. He was one of the world's top cardiology researchers. He helped to discover the genetic mutation that causes heart failure.
Wow.
And his life's mission was to eliminate rheumatic heart disease in Africa. Amazing. In 2009, he was awarded the Order of Mapumugwe for his service and contribution to scientific advancement.
Taking into account that heart disease is a major epidemic, this truly is a devastating loss, which is why many people have been paying tribute to this great man. Let's take a look at some of the messages. Sameh Shaheen says, on behalf of the Egyptian Society of Cardiology, we regret the loss of Professor #Bongani Mayosi, a great friend and great leader in African cardiology community. May he rest in peace. And then Upato Kuhlezon, he says, devastated by the passing of Professor Bongani Mayosi, he taught us that the only way to rise above systematic oppression is to excel beyond expectations and drive the change. You inspired a generation. Your legacy lives on. May your soul rest in peace and rise in glory. Ashley Jacob says, devastated to hear of the passing of Professor Bongani Mayosi, such a humble man for the caliber of physician and scientist he was. I looked forward to seeing UCT medicine grow under his leadership. I genuinely admired this man for the encouragement he gave me when I needed it.
You know, it's interesting how many personal stories and personal accounts come out when somebody has passed away. And I saw musician Zweibaila on his Facebook, and he talked about how when he was a part of the Drakensberg Boys Choir and studying there wasn't enough funds for him to go back home for the holidays. And somehow, somewhere, there was a connection with the professor who helped to take him in and helped to, you know, look after them. And I suppose also inspire them, you know, whether directly or indirectly throughout their holiday period. There was also this comment shared by Bongo Kumalo, who said this: Professor Bongani Mayosi's death made me realize that I'm not informed about what creates depression. I definitely never thought that the rich and well-educated people with good, thriving careers would ever have depression. My narrow thinking thought that it's the highest degree of stress that is only suffered by the poor, vulnerable, and people in serious financial problems.
Interesting.
And you know, it's interesting that that post is one of many that came out kind of redefining what the face of depression is and reminding us there is no face to depression. So you've heard about postpartum or postnatal depression. This is the depression that a mother goes through potentially after giving birth. Now, radio and entertainment legend Penny Libiani has very openly discussed that she was diagnosed with clinical depression, and then she suffered postpartum depression after the birth of her son. So she's now a champion for mental health issues and speaks openly. She's spoken on this very set at this table about her experience. Have a look at this conversation between Penny Libiane and Portia Gumede. So Portia begins and says, those who don't understand or care to understand will tell you that postnatal and postpartum depression do not exist in Black culture. Then you hear stories of mothers who have left their newborns or never ever to be seen again, babies found in dumpsters, or moms being suicidal. And Penny responds and adds her story by saying it's real. When I spoke up 13 years ago, they thought I was being dramatic. Beyond the postnatal is what happened before you carried the baby. The baby is a major trigger in most cases. So much is undealt with long before the baby. #life.
You know, depression has many faces. You know, you're talking about what the face of depression is. And I mean, there's a lot of comedians. It's well known that a lot of comedians actually face with depression because, you know, you sort of unhappy with the status quo, and that's where you come with your creative alternative. And the mask, I guess, to a certain extent. I struggled with, I'm still struggling with depression to this very day. From about the age of 15, it took from then till now. So it's actually a 20-year journey of trying to understand. For many years, I was misdiagnosed. So they thought I had borderline personality disorder. Then they thought I only had an anxiety or disorder. Then they thought it was depression. But it's a combination of things. And it's something that I deal with on a regular basis. And once we got to the right diagnosis, then finding the right medication so that I can get through life, you know, normally. And this is somebody who, I now have medical aid, which I didn't have before. And I now have a stable job so that I can have medical aid. But there's a lot of people where you can't get a job because you are an unstable person. So you can't afford the medical aid, and it's this vicious cycle that perpetuates itself. And there's so many things within our cultures that don't support the growth, recognition, diagnosis, and support of mental health issues.
Absolutely.
And it's something that really needs to be addressed. If you see somebody's behavior change, or if you see somebody that seems like they are unstable, they might not be crazy. They might not be rude. They might be struggling with a serious anxiety disorder.
Guys, no, you're absolutely right, Wenanina. Guys, read up about depression. If you need a book, there's Bonnie Mbuli's book. It's called Eye Bags and Dimples, and she's written about her own depression. It is very common and nothing to be ashamed of.
Now, of course, you need to keep in mind that when you look at someone and know that they're depressed, it comes in many different forms. And Nina just mentioned the recognition is a very big one. A lot of us seem to think that you're happy one day and then poof, you've hit zero. And it's never really just that, because a lot of the time it's a gradual process. So you were at 100% one day, then you drop to 98, then you go to 95. And this could take 1, 2, 3 years and find yourself in a deep, deep dark hole. And it gets very, very tricky. And there's so many forms of depression as well. There's clinical depression, subclinical depression, there's postpartum depression. So
Manic
with all of this
depression.
that's been happening, and you look at Prof's situation,
Yes.
is that he had chronic depression. And this requires so much, and there's so many different things to it. You know, some people will talk about a low self-esteem, some people will talk about a lack of sleep or low energy or, you know, increased sleep or, you know, all these different things that happen amongst different people. So it makes it very difficult to recognize these issues as they come about. But it's not just an issue around, you know, just doctors or professionals, or like many posts suggest, you know, like you don't expect this person to have the depression, but it revolves around many other people.
Everybody.
So young people at school, young people in the workplace, people that are sitting at home unemployed, everyone is going through something or the other. And it's up to us to recognize these things. And if you feel like some of these things are happening to you, I think what's very important is to contact the relevant help centers that can help you. So there's South African Depression and Anxiety Group. And they have a website, and that's www.sadag.org. And of course, there is a phone number that you can call as well. The number is 0800 323 323. And of course, on that just alone, you get information on this, and you get to take a step towards some sort of recovery. And of course, that step is not alone. You have a whole group of people that you can involve in your step and your movement towards getting out of depression.
I mean, you've said it all. You've really said it all. And I think that the vulnerability of sharing your stories the way that Nina has, and many people have been triggered to do such a thing on social media, really helps to perpetuate the idea that there is nothing wrong with asking for help. There's nothing wrong with seeking therapy, with seeking a support group. And if you have those people, I like to think of it as like a spare tire, right? So you have your spare wheel. You don't want to use your spare wheel necessarily all the time, but you've got the people who will be able to recognize that something has gone wrong, will be able to then intercept and at least, you know, help you out until you can get to the next point and get yourself fully back where you would like to be. Really?
Check. Now I was going to say that, and don't say this is when your children are crying out, take them to seek help.
Check on your strong friends.
Absolutely. We're going to take a quick break now. This is TrendingSA on SABC3.